Big win for the San Francisco 49ers, improving to 5-2 on the season. As we look back at week 7 and the entirety of the 2025 season, what is different about these San Francisco 49ers?
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It's what we do. So hang out with us every day, just like our everydayers do. Subscribe. It helps us out tremendously on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Getting into the San Francisco 49ers team. What feels different about this team this year? Trying to put our finger on it. And what's different about the running game all of a sudden in week 7 versus the first 6 weeks of the year, and a whole lot more today. This episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So, big picture idea, Croc, for today, and did a little rewatching of the 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons, and I have some takeaways, and want to highlight some more big plays that we didn't get to on yesterday's rapid reaction show. But this team feels different. There's something definitely different about this. The way this team is playing, they have almost as many wins right now at 5-2 than they had all of last season, Croc, but still just as many injuries. Some different players injured and lost than last year, but they're playing with their backup quarterback, your two best players on the defensive side of the ball that we thought you lose these two guys, it is season over. Has not been the case for the 49ers so far this year. A couple of big primetime wins without Bosa, a huge one Sunday night against the Falcons without Fred Warner. What's different about this football team, big picture right now, versus last year's football team that went through a lot of the same adversity, but weren't able to overcome it and win football games?
Two things, which is huge, and it may come back to the same thing, right, with coaching, but I think situational football. The 49ers this season on both sides of the ball have been drastically better in key situations. When we were off air, I talked about what I thought was one of the more underrated plays in this game, but that third down completion to Christian McCaffrey in the red zone. A year ago, that play doesn't happen, right? Where you are putting a team away. The 49ers had several opportunities last season, several, to put teams away or keep themselves in the game and do it, whether it's the offense or the defense. And this year, both sides of the ball are picking up their end of the slack. That third down completion to Christian McCaffrey, it was terrific. They just had him run straight up the field. That was all he did. But terrific job by Mac Jones. And they highlighted this on the broadcast to hold that linebacker just long enough to where now he sees that in-breaking route coming from the other side. He vacates his area, which creates a void in the defense, and boom, Mac Jones fires it in there. Hey, Christian McCaffrey, just don't drop the ball. And he did not do it, execute it. They kept the drive going. They ended up punching it in for a touchdown. Let's say they don't execute that level. Let's say Mac Jones doesn't hold the linebacker and tries to do whatever, throws it away, whatever the case is. You force a field goal, or you end up kicking the field goal. Well, now Atlanta has an opportunity to go down and win the football game. Like, those were the differences a year ago. It happened a couple of times this season now on the defensive side of the ball, where opposing offenses drove down the field. What the 49ers do? Sam Darnold, you're not going to win this game. Nick Bosa forced a fumble. 49ers take it away. They win the game. A couple weeks later, it happened again, or a week later, however long it was, where the 49ers defense, once again, took the ball out of an opposing quarterback's hands, a running back's hand, forcing it on the goal line, forcing the fumble. 49ers recover, and then they come down again, and the 49ers stuffed them on 4th and 1. Like, that's what the 49ers are doing different. Situational football has been light years better than it was a season ago, regardless of the injuries. And that was one big conversation that we continue to have, where it's like, yeah, they had a lot of injuries. We understand that, but they had chances. They had opportunities. They didn't capitalize on it. This season, they are.
And a number of those situations in this game too, Croc, the way the game started too, and it was like, oh no, here we go. I talked all last week leading up to it, and the keys to victory is like 49ers pass rush hasn't been there. The Falcons have put more pressure on opposing quarterbacks than any team in the league coming into the game. So that was a big area of concern for me for the 49ers. First drive of the game, first drop back, first play for Mac Jones, drops back, instant sack. Pooney gets beat for a sack. And then Connor Colby gets up an instant pressure and a quarterback hit to end that opening drive for the 49ers. Drive stalls out. They end up having to punt. And it's like, oh, this is going to be a long night. Is it going to be one of those things? But what happened? The 49ers flipped the script in that game and ended up, first of all, being able to run the football so they didn't have to drop back a ton. And when they did drop back, they were efficient with the football and made big plays and were able to keep drives alive like you mentioned there. But they didn't hang Mac Jones out to dry in the pocket and not be able to protect him while not being able to run the ball. So that was massive. And then staying in the first quarter, the Sam Okwuonu, I call it a coverage sack here on my notes because there was nowhere for Michael Penix to go with the football. Held onto the ball, but the sack ends a super long drive. And for the 49ers to bend, not break on that drive, hold the Falcons to a field goal. So now instead of a 7-0 hole, you're in a 3-0 hole. And then what do the 49ers do after that? Mac Jones throws an interception. And it's like, man, this is not going to be a good night for the San Francisco 49ers. What happened? Boom. Get the ball back instantly. And then the first Christian McCaffrey touchdown. You go down and you're up 7-3 at that point, when this is a game where it could have been 14-0 because the other team scores off of a turnover and an interception and have this long drive and go down and score on you with Bijan Robinson, who's one of the best players on the planet right now. And that wasn't the case. The 49ers were ahead at that point in the second quarter, and those 4 drives of the game, 2 for each team, took up most of the first half of the game. Then all of a sudden, here comes Bryce Huff, strip sack, you get the ball back again, you're able to come down and score again before the half, and it's 10-3, and now you got a 7-point lead, and then the grounding penalty on Penix. And so the 49ers were a team that was situationally taking care of these situations, getting the ball back when they really needed, and the Falcons were doing the opposite. They weren't able to keep drives alive. They weren't able to get into the end zone. Penix grounding penalty makes it so they can't even kick a field goal at the end of the half, and the 49ers were able to turn around and double dip and then take a 2-score lead. And despite another long drive for the Falcons, they really had those 2 good drives, and that Bijan TD was the end of the scoring for the Falcons, and the 49ers held on and made a 4th-and-1 stop with Chase Lucas. So it wasn't just one guy, it was an entire team effort. So really impressive that the 49ers were able to do those things and really complement the entire football team with getting off the field, staying on the field when you needed it, guys making plays when they needed it, able to run the football too and play keep away from the Atlanta Falcons, who it felt like only had 5 possessions the entire game.
Yeah, well, I think both teams kind of held the ball somehow, some way for an extended period of time throughout the first quarter. I think the 49ers only had the ball one time in the first quarter, and essentially it was like a 3-and-out. So 49ers, they just did not have a ton of time of possession early. But again, they still found a way to make sure that they kept themselves in the game, and they did a terrific job doing it. I've been so impressed with their ability to do that. I had a text message from my buddy Jasper, and he didn't even mention the 49ers, but he texted me this morning essentially saying, how do the 49ers how do they keep doing this? I knew immediately he was talking about the 49ers, and I said, man, with this amount of injuries, I've kind of lowered my standard for whatever they're supposed to be, and all they continue to do is say, no, our standard is our standard, and we're going to figure out a way to play to that. I would have never in a million years imagined the 49ers 5-2 at this point in the season with the injuries that they've sustained on both sides of the ball, playing without your starting quarterback, playing without your star receiver, playing without the receiver that's supposed to replace your star receiver, playing without your star tight end, playing without your star defensive end, your star linebacker, like the guys that are a heartbeat of this team. And they just keep swinging and figuring it out. And I think that is a huge testament to a guy at times that things get a little loud for, but Kyle Shanahan, to keep this group locked in. It could have been easy to just be like, don't have our best players. We're banged up. It is what it is. We're going to look like last season. That's been his thing, right? You have these great years, and then these years where, some guys got hurt, so you just win 6 games. Not this year. It looks like they're going to win 6 out of 8 games, hopefully.
More on the San Francisco 49ers. What's different about the run game? Was it Christian McCaffrey? Was it something else in week 7? Why were they able to get it going on the ground? Why coaching matters, execution, So much more from the 49ers now after 7 weeks of the NFL season. Next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
By our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. And Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every single vehicle and every model, and you can feel it. And trust me, I've been driving a Mazda for 10 years, and I was blown away when I first sat in a Mazda, when I first drove a Mazda, and you can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, and really just overall the way it feels and the way it drives. It makes everyday drives feel like anything but smooth handling to intuitive controls and all-wheel drive standard on every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Those Tahoe trips are a blast. So like the players on the field, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. So, Croc, taking a look at the San Francisco 49ers running game, and we've asked what's different about the 49ers this year, and I want to talk a little bit more about some of those elements, but this specific football game, there was not a lot of plays run. And by the way, one of our listeners, I don't have the tweet up in front of me, but shout out to whoever it was, one of our everydayers said, you guys got to mention that the Raiders only ran 30 offensive plays. And I talked about this a little bit on Peacock and Williamson. I mean, that was a blowout, the Chiefs against the Raiders this week. The Chiefs ran 77 plays. The Raiders ran 30 plays total. And Kyle Shanahan, one of his quotes post-game was the classic Shanahan thing. It was like, we called it post-game a vintage performance. This is classic Shanahan offense, right? He said after the game, quote, "I challenged the team saying I'd like to get 40 runs called." And they were able to accomplish that classic feat. And George Kittle, who, look, and we gave George Kittle a lot of credit post-game. George Kittle's just his blocks wasn't the reason the 49ers run game was so great. I think there's a little extra sauce with George Kittle just being on the field. But Kittle was asked about the game plan and running the football and be a little bit more power against this team. He did say, "It really excites me. It gives you that mindset that we're going to hit people in the face and we're going to play as hard as we possibly can and basically just smash the other team," which is what the 49ers ended up doing in the run game. But he also mentioned how small the Falcons are up front. And it was a huge key for this game. And it wasn't just the yards per carry. It was seeing Christian McCaffrey on the second level, Croc, which was what was so different in this game to me. And the 49ers, according to Nick Wagner, had rushes of 10 plus yards in the first 6 games. We know the Shanahan offense. It's all about explosive run plays, right? And you always see this from Mostert to whoever you name, Breida, you name the running back, explosive plays. The 49ers have not had that this year. They had 6 of those in the first, 9 of those in the first 6 games. They had 8 runs of 10 plus yards against the Falcons on Sunday night.
Yeah, and like you said, including Brian Robinson, I think he did a really good job as well. The biggest thing I think with one of the differences with the 49ers and them being able to run the ball was just execution. All right. Regardless of who you're playing against, O-line, you need them to execute for you to have a certain level of success. I think Christian McCaffrey would tell you that, man, this season he's been bottled up. And you brought up a stat about a week or so ago where he was hit behind the line of scrimmage on all but like one carry. And in this game, he had a lot cleaner runs to where he was able to get to the second level, and we saw him in space and kind of make a guy miss. That was terrific. And I think that was really a big difference in why there was so much more room for Christian McCaffrey to maneuver throughout the entirety of this game.
Yeah, the yards after contact. He had 1 yard after contact in that game. He had, I think, at least 50 yards at halftime before contact, before he was contact. And I always bring up the stat last year, the big difference, like Saquon Barkley. Why did Saquon go crazy last year? He had 1,000 yards before contact last season. That's a good year for a running back. He had that just before he ever touched a defender last season. So that's crazy. We saw a lot more of that this week for the 49ers. And Kittle, I'm sure, helped in other ways besides just his physical blocks. But it wasn't just Kittle's blocks. And it wasn't, and clearly the 49ers made a point. It's like, we have an advantage here. And I like that they responded and executed to that challenge from Kyle Shanahan, because they needed that. They needed to win the game on the ground so that Mac Jones wasn't dropping back in a dead duck in the pocket on 3rd and longs. And so that was huge for the 49ers to run that many plays, shorten the game as they did. And it was a huge factor for the win. And so good on the 49ers, good on Christian McCaffrey. It was nice to see him a little bit loose, see him in the secondary, making plays against third level defenders, which we hadn't seen a lot this year. But I would contend, Croc, a lot of the headlines are that, Christian McCaffrey leads the 49ers to victory, as if it was a different player. I saw the same Christian McCaffrey in week 7 against the Falcons that I saw the first 6 weeks. I just saw a guy who was the same player, but at the second level instead of bottled up at the line of scrimmage. I think that was the big difference in the game, that he had room to operate and he was getting to the second level. And so I saw the same guy. It wasn't a Christian McCaffrey-led thing. It was an execution-led thing. It was all 11 guys on offense. It wasn't a one-man show. And I want to talk about the Falcons being a one-man show in a second, but I don't think it was that for the 49ers. It wasn't Christian McCaffrey being in it. He was the same guy.
I think Christian McCaffrey has something going on. And I think we all know that, right? Like, this is not 100% healthy version of Christian McCaffrey, which is crazy to think that you get this kind of production, 200 offensive yards in a game, and you're not 100% yourself. But he's going over to the sideline. We've talked a lot about this. He doesn't want to come out the game. And when he does, he's usually holding that finger up. Hey, you got one play with me out. He did that a little bit more than usual in this game. And I'm watching him go to the sideline. He's stretching something out. I don't know if it's his hamstring or if it's a knee or whatever it is. He's going to the sideline. They're doing a little work on him. There's some things there, right? So, was it a different CMC? I think Christian McCaffrey is a great football player. He is great. I saw the stuff on social media. People, anybody says he's lost a step. I went and looked at, like, what have our standards changed for Christian McCaffrey and how explosive of a player he was and what he is today. When we see him and he's running terrific, he looked good yesterday. Whatever you saw yesterday in that version of him still is not the best version of Christian McCaffrey that we've seen as a 49er. You go back to it. Still, this game, longest carry, 15 yards. Longest carry of the season, 15 yards. I went back to the great season that Christian McCaffrey had a couple years ago, 2023. First game, he had a 65-yard carry. The very next game, a 51-yard carry. He had an 18-yard carry in that game, 27 in that game, 16, 19, 27, 72, 26, 39. I don't care what anybody says. This is not the same explosive player. But that doesn't mean that he's not a good football player. Jerry Rice, at the age of 40 or 42 or whatever it was with the Oakland Raiders, was a 1,200-yard receiver. Was he as explosive as he was at the age of 25, 27? No. At some point, some of your skills diminish, but when you are an extremely hard worker, which Jerry Rice clearly was, when you are relentless, when you are an amazing competitor, you find ways to be productive regardless of not 100% being the same guy. LeBron James, I'll use him. He's still averaging like 26, 8, and 9 a game, right? Like, he's still, but Man, watch LeBron James jump. He ain't jumping as high.
No.
He's doing more jumping straight at the rim as opposed to jumping over the rim as he used to do and jumping over players. But he's still very protective because he's a great athlete. He's a great player. And Christian McCaffrey, I don't feel like anybody should take offense to somebody saying, not quite as explosive as he used to be, lost a little bit of juice, because he's still a damn good football player, and he proved it last night.
And you highlighted the big catch he made, which was maybe the most impactful play he made of the game. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that. And I think the one thing that felt different about McCaffrey wasn't necessarily how he was playing, but it was something with him and the entire offense where you could feel the momentum. And it was like, oh, that's right. This is what we used to do all the time. Let's go mash these fools, basically. Like it was a confidence. It was an overall confidence in the entire offense. And I think that's where maybe Kittle adds a little bit more to it. And there was just a little bit more in everybody's, I don't want to say giddy up in everybody's step, but there was just that you could feel that confidence and that momentum of like, oh yeah, they can't stop us. So let's just go. And so that was really cool to see because they hadn't gotten that going on the ground at all year long. And so now it's like, okay, teams are going to prepare for that. I think the 49ers are going to have to, and this was a certain team with a certain weakness. So did the 49ers lean more towards a power run game? Did they try to get the outside zone going a little bit more? Next week, we'll see. It will probably be opponent dependent, but I just wanted to, it's so important to emphasize that execution is one of the biggest things that we never talk about. And all the players can be the same. And the stats might look different week to week. It's not because it's all of a sudden a different human being out there. There's a lot of factors in it and a lot of people doing their jobs and a lot of execution goes into it. I think the 49ers executed awesome. And I want to talk about the Falcons when I rewatched them and the area where the 49ers were clearly better than the Atlanta Falcons, which is a lot of areas. Next, let's get to that next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. NFL season rolling along, 7 weeks done, heading toward week 8, getting close to the trade deadline. The 49ers almost don't have a choice but to try to do a little something, I think, to keep this momentum going. This is a team that has the second best record in the NFL right now. And FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. And I don't know how long this offer is going to be around. So if you're interested, get involved now because right now, new customers can bet just $5 at FanDuel and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, whether it's weekly NFL lines, player props, live in-game betting, build your own parlays. And it's not just NFL football on Sundays. Of course, you got a couple of Monday nighters this week. You got college football Saturdays. You got Major League Baseball playoffs, NBA season getting going. So whether you're just a casual fan or diving deep into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Real quick, Peacock, I want to talk about, you mentioned execution. And I think there are a lot of times where you watch a play and it doesn't work out the way you want, right? They call play. Why'd they call this? They should have called this. A lot of times, if you go back and you just watch the play, there more than likely was poor execution. So it wasn't that it was just the wrong play call. It was, hey, this guy's supposed to bucket step this way and do this, and he stepped this way because of this, and all of a sudden the play didn't work. But everybody attributes it to just being a bad play call. So I kind of wanted to piggyback off of you talking about execution. And sometimes, or I think a lot of times, especially for just the casual observer, there are a lot of reasons as to why something doesn't quite work out the way people expect it to.
Here's a perfect example. What was everybody's least favorite play call of the game for the 49ers?
The Kyle Juszczyk fullback
yes.
dive, I'm assuming.
Yeah. The short yardage Kyle Juszczyk was 3rd and 1, right? And then they ended up having to punt because that play got blown up so hard. That play was a bad play call and I didn't like it. But at the same time, it wasn't because of 44. It was because the entire left side of the 49ers line got absolutely annihilated. And George Kittle was among them. Kendrick Bourne got crushed on that play. Even Trent Williams. By the way, the one guy who came to play on defense for the Falcons, 96, Zach Harrison, dude is a problem. He was really good for the Falcons, but up front, they weren't that good. And on the second level, they weren't very good at all. And so the 49ers really did a number on them. But on that play, the 49ers got blown up, and Kittle was one of them. Bourne was definitely one of them. And Trent Williams. And so it's like, look, I get it. It wasn't a great play call, but it wasn't 44's fault. It wasn't Kyle Shanahan's fault that they got annihilated on that one play. So that's, and so multiple things can be true.
And those guys you just mentioned, right? Kendrick Bourne, as a blocking receiver, has been pretty good throughout his career. Trent Williams, George Kittles, those are guys that you typically would count on to execute those blocks at a high level. And if those guys get destroyed, your play, it's over. Your play, it's done with. And you're not counting on that. If you like when Kyle Shanahan called that and look how we got this set up, and these guys are gonna do that. This gets blown up. It's like, holy crap. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's like, okay, what do we have? 3rd and 1? Well, where's the play where George Kittle lines up next to Trent Williams? That's the play I'm going to call, right? And that's usually a pretty good idea, but wasn't so much on this case. In fact, I think probably it was more than anything the Falcons knew that was coming, because I knew it was coming. When I saw George Kittle, they kind of did a double motion. So I saw George Kittle motion next to Trent Williams. I was like, well, they're going to run left. And then they brought the receiver from that side over the other way to try to get one less defender to come with him on that side. I was like, well, this play's definitely going left. I thought it was maybe going to McCaffrey, ended up going to Kyle Juszczyk there. And it got blown up. But the Falcons stink, Brock. That's my biggest takeaway when I watched the game again. The Falcons aren't good. Like, where are the Falcons good? Their quarterback stinks. They have one superstar running back, and if he doesn't go crazy, they're a flat-out bad football team. They weren't good defensively. They weren't good up front. They weren't good blocking for their superstar running back. One thing I will say, though, and this is kind of like when you see Christian McCaffrey running the ball, and you see Bijan run the ball, Bijan's got extra juice. Like, he could give some of his juice to Christian McCaffrey and still be okay. That's how much juice Bijan has. Like, he's a big, fast, athletic young guy. And
real quick, so would you say having juice doesn't equate to production, right?
2.9 yards carry. Yeah. Exactly.
But you were just able to see it even on some of the moves in the backfield where he got 2 yards, but they're showing that replay over and over again because you just see an extra movement ability where it's like, it's not fair for a guy to be able to move that way, even though he gained 2 yards on the play.
Right. You just see him get the corner on a play that he can't even turn the corner, but just seeing him get to the corner and he goes out of bounds for a 1 yard gain or whatever. Like, you can see it. Like, he's a pretty special guy, and he's Superman for that football team. And when he's not able to be Superman, the Falcons are in trouble. So that was one of the more disappointing teams I think I've seen all season with how they played coming off that Monday nighter against the Bills. And then seeing them, I was like, this team's not very good. Michael Penix throws like a super flat football.
He doesn't bring his hips through on the throat. They were showing it, and his hips. And I'm looking, I'm like, this dude's hips are tight as hell, and he's locking off the front side of his throat. Now, listen, I'm no QB guru, right? But I talk to a lot of people that truly understand the biomechanics of throwing a football. And when I watch him, he closes off that entire front side, and those hips aren't rotating through. And it looks a little weird when I was watching that. And I don't know if that's some of the surgeries he's had to the lower part. He had multiple ACL surgeries in college, but that was weird. And I don't know if that's attributed to some of the flat passes. They were like, oh man, this guy has one of the strongest arms in the NFL. And I'm watching this ball float through the air, and I'm like, one of the strongest arms maybe on the Falcons, but I don't think even in this game, you could put Brock Purdy in the game, and it looked like Brock Purdy may have a better arm than Michael Penix, the way some of those balls were floating.
I've seen this with him multiple times too. If he's rolling left to his arm side and he throws the ball to the left sideline, it has a big time tail. And there was a play, I think it was to Drake London, where it looked like he was open. It looked like it was going to be a completion at the sideline or near the sideline. And the ball just kept fading, and ended up being way out of bounds. It just looked like a bad pass. It was like, well, that's not even close. He could never have caught that in bounds. So I've seen that a few times from him. There was a play in the end zone last week. It was the same deal where the ball just kind of faded to his arm side out of bounds while he was on the run. There was one play he did rip one in like a kind of a hole shot in the zone on the right sideline, where it's like, okay, that's a big boy throw. He clearly has a good arm, right? But the ball just comes out weird. And maybe part of it is just our brains and the way it looks for a left-handed thrower and a right-handed thrower. I always come back to that video of you can find it on YouTube. It's a highlight. The Tua highlights, but it's flipped, so he looks like he's right-handed, and it looks like a different player. So there's something mentally to that. Just seeing a guy throw left-handed looks weird, but it does seem like every left-handed thrower, even all the way back to Steve Young, the ball comes out different. It just looks different for sure. So part of it might just be our brains playing tricks on us. But the Falcons aren't a very good football team. Like the Bucs are going to run away with that division, even though the Carolina Panthers are 4-3. The Falcons are what, 3-3 now because they've had their bye. The Bucs are by far the best team in that division. Like it's not even close. I know the records might say otherwise.
I think what a lot of people have to do too with the Bucs is you got to realize, and we'll see how healthy they are moving forward. But playing without Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Ibuka, that is and Bucky Irvin, the running back, like that. Those are if anybody before the season were like, all right, top 4 players on Tampa Bay's offense, not named Baker Mayfield. Oh, okay. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Ibuka, and Bucky Irvin, and they are just all out. And somehow, some way, they're still very competitive. So almost like the 49ers, not that you're waiting for the 49ers to just fail week after week, but waiting for that moment for the injuries to truly catch up to them. I wonder moving forward, and we'll see, how healthy they are over the next week. I think some of their guys are coming back, but will some of these injuries give another team in the NFC South an opportunity to kind of keep pace with Tampa? But if they get those guys back, they're going to be difficult to beat regardless.
You know who else doesn't have juice is Drake London. Right? Am I right?
Yeah. He's never been the most explosive player. I think coming out, his comp was kind of, like T. Higgins, that type of receiver where you're not the burstiest, but the catch radius, his ability to use his body and his frame.
The one-handed catcher is ridiculous, but I feel like everything's kind of contested for him.
And I think he had like this crazy game. Was it last week? Let me pull this up.
It was all last week. I think he was the only wide receiver that caught a pass for the Falcons last week, because I think him and Bijan had all the yards against the Bills.
Yeah, he had 158 receiving yards, and in the game before that, 110. But he's kind of their guy, and you want a quarterback that meshes with him and their styles come together, and you give a guy like him, just more opportunities. But I think he would be better suited not having to be the de facto number 1 target. And they have some other guys. Like I like Kyle Pitts. What I saw from him out there, he looks like a guy that I feel like you should be able to find more ways to just utilize him even in space, because he's such a good athlete at tight end. I like Darnell Mooney. So they had a few guys on that offense, but for whatever reason, it just didn't come together against the 49ers. And it may be because of the quarterback.
And look, maybe burying the lead here. What's the biggest difference with the 49ers this year, last year? Bob Saleh.
Yeah.
It might be that simple in a lot of ways. Bob Saleh.
Real quick, did you hear about they talked about it? I'm like, that's a good idea. I might have to do this for my players. But you just send a bunch of clips of just reminders. Essentially, that's what they did. And within those reminders, I think Chase Lucas said there was about 86 plays, 87 plays. And it gives you kind of tails on certain things that they do. So on that 4th and 1, when they threw that little flat route to Drake London and Chase Lucas broke on it, should have picked it off, should have took it to the crib. But he remembered that from the footage, the film that Bob Saleh sends out to all the guys. So I may have to steal that.
That's phenomenal. I like that. Do you need to do you need people to call you for some film interns, Croc? I don't know if you got time for the day. I know how much time you have, which is not much left over, Croc. I don't know if you can be cutting up 86 clips for all your players out there.
What I was doing right before we started watching film, man. It doesn't stop, man. It doesn't stop.
The grind does not stop. A couple of really good ones on Monday Night Football. We're recording this before Monday Night Football. So you mentioned those Buccaneers, Bucks and Lions. I'm very interested to see how that goes. I think Mike Evans and Ibuka might be back for Baker Mayfield in that one. No doubt the Lions are upset after losing last week. And then Seahawks against D'Amico Ryan's Texans, where the defense is still playing in Houston. And they've put a couple of big wins together after an awful start. I think the Texans are 0-3 to start the season. So Seahawks and Texans playing good football right now coming into these Monday nighters. And of course, Croc and I'll be back tomorrow breaking everything down. We got a crossover getting ready for week 8 of the NFL season. So stay tuned in and subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.